This is the second video on correlation, and in this video we're going to look at the relationship between two variables, and we're going to use a numerical measure here. And the measure that we're going to use is called correlation. And correlation is a measure, a statistical measure. We're going to call it R. So any time you see R in statistics, you know it's going to be a measure of correlation. And correlation talks about the relationship between two quantitative variables. And that's important that they're both quantitative variables. There are similar statistics between variables when they're not quantitative, but it's not correlation. So quantitative variables, and we're going to measure it by R. And R is always going to take a value between -1 and 1. And the simple way to think about this is, let's just look at some examples. R is always between 0 and 1. And let's look at some relationships. The relationships could be, well, here's two positive relationships, right? This would be an R of 0.5, and this would be an R of 0.9. And here's a measure of R, which is negative 0.3 and negative 0.8. And if you ever want to see exactly what some common correlations are, just go to Google and type in images, correlation, and you can get lots of plots like this. So here's the key facts about correlation. So correlation is going to be between 0 and 1. A correlation of 1 means it's a perfect correlation. And a value of 0 means there's no correlation. So any number between 0 and 1 means there's a positive correlation. Negative 1 is also going to be a perfect, but in this case a perfect negative correlation. And values between 0 and negative 1 will be called negative correlations. And sometimes they're called negative associations. Same meaning. And let's just look real quickly about what we mean here. Here's an example of a correlation of 1. If you notice a correlation of 1, what that means is there's literally a line that can be drawn through all the points, right? If you notice right here, you could draw a line through all these points. That's a perfect linear correlation. If it's also, you can draw a line, but it's a negative slope line, that's the correlation of negative 1. Again, let's use this graph here, this table, to think about a correlation between 1 and -1, and let's put up some examples again. If you look at this, this is a correlation of -0.3. -0.3 is between 0 and -1, so it's a negative correlation. It's actually, if you think about it, closer to 0 than -1, so 0 would be no correlation at all, and -1 would be a perfect negative correlation, and you get a sense of what that is. Let's look at this one right here and this one here. Here's a correlation of 0.5 and 0.9. They're both positive. And what we can say is the 0.9 is more closely linear than is 0.5. And that's the basic idea of correlation. In the next video, we talk about a number of facts about correlation that are critical.